Welcome to Civil War Digital Digest. I'm Will. We're back at the Rutherford B. Hayes Presidential Library and Museums. Yes, there's 2 museums here and a library. It's a wonderful place to come check out. But today we're going to do an episode out of the vault. Kristina Smith from the media team here is come in, and she's brought one of the pieces that you can't see in the museum because so many great museums have more items than they can share. What are we looking at today?
Well, today we have, this is actually a pillbox that belonged to Rutherford B. Hayes, but he wasn't using it as a pillbox at the time. So this actually was a Civil War artifact, and he was using it to hold hardtack. And he had this with him when he was wounded at the Battle of South Mountain. Yes, go ahead.
Wow, I was going to say, that's pretty small for a piece of hardtack, so it's probably a fragment. We're looking, just you can see from my hands, we're looking about 3 inches in diameter. It'd be a small piece of hardtack, or it'd be a remnant for what they had, but a little bit extra. You know, when you look at the beautiful frock coat of the day and know that, yes, it's an everyday coat, but it's also a dress jacket, not having the crumbly cracker in your pocket and be able to have something to hold it is. What do we know about this?
I like to call Hayes an organized pack rat because he labeled everything. He saved everything and he labeled everything, which is fantastic for a museum, right? So he actually wrote on here, you can see on the back, he actually wrote on here, you can see in his handwriting, it says cracker, so hardtack being the cracker, from our coat pocket, South Mountain, September 14th. So he actually, would have had the hardtack in here, had it in the right pocket of his coat when he went into battle. So I don't know if he was expecting it to be a long day, so he put some hardtack in case, he wasn't going to be able to eat and needed something. And he actually got shot in the arm. He nearly lost his arm in the battle, so he was stranded out on the battlefield for quite a while before he was helped off and taken to a home in Middletown to recover.
Now, I know we've got this jacket on display here,
Yes.
and while you can't see the pillbox, you can come see that jacket. Have you been able to see the inside of it, or has it been in display since you've been?
I have been able to see the jacket. I was very fortunate. I've been here since 2015. So in 2016, we completely renovated the museum for our centennial. So I got to see the jacket before they put it in the diorama downstairs. But what's cool about that is you can actually see in the left arm where the bullet hole is, where he was shot. And then you can see it's cut here where the surgeon, who happened to be First Lady Lucy Hayes' brother, Dr. Joe Webb, cut it open and did the surgery. So it's kind of neat that Lucy's brother was the regimental surgeon and he was able to save Hayes' arm. So it's a really neat piece of history. It's kind of a staff favorite and a visitor favorite. So this is a neat tie to it. Part of why it's not on display is, as you mentioned, we have more than 20,000 artifacts here, so you can't possibly display everything, but we like to get things like this out now and then.
Great. Well, I think it gives us a way. A pillbox sitting here by itself is a pillbox. It also puts us in a place in Hayes' service, but I think more than that, it puts us in a place in Hayes' family. Talk a little bit more again about President Hayes and the family relationship to the surgeon who treated him, and then let's talk about what it was like for Lucy when she found out that Rutherford had been wounded.
So at South Mountain, he is a lieutenant colonel. He gets shot in the arm. He nearly loses his arm. And this is an interesting family connection. So his wife, Lucy's brother, Dr. Joseph Webb, is the regimental surgeon. And he is able to save Lieutenant Colonel Hayes' arm.
Sure. Sometimes say rank has its privileges. Family might have as much.
Yes.
Let's face it, a severe wound in an arm in the Civil War is often a choice for an immediate amputation.
Yeah.
But here's a brother-in-law who says, no, we're not doing that.
Yes, yeah. And you can tell, too, from some of the things that Rutherford wrote to Lucy, there was quite a possibility he might lose his arm. So he was very fortunate.
Well, you brought her into the story. Let's bring her to the forefront. Let's talk about Lucy's story as she finds out her husband has been wounded.
And this is a great story, and it again shows what a strong woman Lucy is. Of course, she's at home. She's staying with family in Chillicothe with the kids. And Rutherford is injured. Of course, he is recuperating at the Jacob Rudy home in Middletown, Maryland. And he sends 3 telegrams, one to his brother-in-law, one to a friend in Cincinnati, and one to Lucy. Well, for whatever reason, not enough money goes to the telegraph office. So the person who's sending the telegraphs has to decide who doesn't get the telegraph. And of course, he chooses the two men. So Lucy does not get the telegram saying that Rutherford has been injured. Here's where he is. And he asks her to come to him.
What does she
So she, happens to hear, random rumors, maybe he's been killed. She doesn't know what's going on. And then he sends a second telegram, asking her to come and saying, I shall not lose my arm. And so she gets this and she's like, what is this about? And the second telegram has a Washington, D.C. dateline. It does not say Middletown, Maryland. And so this is all she has. It's 2 lines, please come, basically something of that nature. I shall not lose my arm.
And what action does she take?
So she talks to her brother-in-law, and they head to Washington, D.C. And it's quite a harrowing journey because she's basically going around Washington looking at military outposts, looking at hospitals, trying to find him. And she's not having any luck. She goes to the telegraph office. They're not much help. And then finally they see some soldiers on the steps at the telegraph office who have a 23 on their caps. And she says, 23rd Ohio, 23rd Ohio. And they answer and they say, oh my goodness, this is Mrs. Hayes. And so they're able to ascertain, where he is. And so from there, she's able to get to Middletown. And one of my favorite parts of the story, and I think this kind of illustrates what a close relationship they had, is Rutherford writes in his diary while this is going on. He keeps waiting for Lucy, and she doesn't come because she doesn't know where he is. She doesn't know what's going on. And he says, this hurts more than the wound. So I think that's really sweet. And so it takes them quite a while to get to Middletown. They have to find trains. Middletown is quite small, so, they have to get on the trains and find places. And her brother-in-law kept going to the train station in Middletown every day just in case they would get there. So thankfully, he intercepts them. So I feel like it's a very harrowing journey. It becomes kind of a favorite story, so much so that when Rutherford and Lucy had the first typewriter in the White House, they actually had her dictate this to a typist who typed it up. So there is a typed version that we have in our records.
Wow.
Of that.
It's pretty fantastic to know the story because we talk about in the history circles about primary sources, and a primary source with the first typewriter in the White House.
Yes.
It's fantastic. Well, as I look at this, you've got the handwriting on the back from Hayes and other people since in the museum world or in the collecting world.
Yeah, somebody kind of dictated the date, September 14th, 1862.
Let's talk about the front of it. What is on here?
Yeah, so this is W.H. Adderley. This is in the typed print, northeast corner of 6th and Mound.
We'll do some work and see what we can find about that. And then in the middle here.
And then handwritten, it says 25097, Dr.
That's a J.
J. Yep. Davis, uses directed 21.11.61.
I would bet that's a calendar date in the British or English system with the day, the month, and then the year.
Yeah. So
I wonder if that's when the pills that came in this were actually prescribed.
That's what I'm thinking. So they would have been living in Cincinnati at the time, I believe. So it could be in Cincinnati.
After getting back from the shoot, we took the information on the cover of the Pillbox and went down the rabbit hole. We found William's Cincinnati Directory from 1860 online. We also found a great map of the city of Cincinnati before the Civil War. We find William Adderley's druggist shop on the corner of 6th and Mound. Heading west down the street at 383 West 6th Street, we find where Rutherford and Lucy were living, even though at this point he was already serving in the 23rd Ohio and they were in Western Virginia. A little bit east and further north at 435 Vine is Dr. Davis's shop, although he lives somewhere else. Here's a chance to take a look at all the information on the Pillbox and from the directory, overlay them, and we get a sense of where everybody was. Well, as we bring it to a close, we have one piece here that's part of a larger world. What story does this leave you with?
The main thing that I think about this is just that artifacts can really connect you to a time and place like nothing else. And that's something that President Hayes himself believed. This is, you see this and this is a pillbox and it's very cool because it's old. But to me, this represents that story. Like this makes me think of, President Hayes sitting in the battlefield, like, am I going to lose my arm? Am I ever going to see my wife and kids again? And it makes me think about Lucy, at a time where her husband sends 3 telegraphs. And at that time, the guy's like, well, he only gave me money for 2, so the men get them. And Lucy says, well, I'm going to go find my husband. And she undertakes this harrowing journey, which she would have done herself, but her brother-in-law decided to go with her. So I think I guess that's a long-winded way of this really connects you to that story and the personal part of these people and history. History is about stories and people.
Super. Well, thank you for bringing that out to share with us. It's always wonderful. You don't have the space here to bring all 20,000 pieces out, but for the key ones, one at a time, we can get a few more things out. And thank you for sharing that with us.
Thanks for being here.
Great. Well, thank you for spending your time with Civil War Digital Digest. When we talk about connection, there's not much of a better one than a small trinket, but it sat in the pocket of a man who was wounded, a field officer. His brother-in-law helped save his arm despite how serious the wound is. His devoted wife comes and they spend time together, and while he's convalescing, he pins on Colonel Straps. This is the next step in the journey for Rutherford B. Hayes on his road to the White House and here to his retirement, and now his library and museum stay here as a part of his memory. Come here and check it out. There's even a better connection here. We'll see you next time.